Hi, I'm Joy Schleef, a Certified AEO Specialist, and today I'm going to go a little deeper into the differences and similarities among AEO, Answer Engine Optimization, GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, and SEO, Search Engine Optimization. And we'll talk about how you can decide which one to use in what situations. But before I dive into that training, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already subscribed. This is very important information, and at this point, there are not a lot of people providing good, trustable guidance about AEO. So when you subscribe, you'll let Google and YouTube know that they should share this video with more people. If you want, you can also click on the bell icon to be notified when I post more videos on this new channel. I usually post about once a week. Thank you. Traditional SEO has used various factors to click on a search listing or to click on a video clip or a social media or watch all or most of a YouTube video. So what are some of those factors that attract and keep the human attention? There are many factors involved in Google's rankings, and they've changed those algorithms over the years. You're looking at a reference to one of them right now that was called Panda, and that update occurred back in 2011 and focused on blocking, at the time, what was called content farms that were producing low quality and often duplicate content. The Panda update was followed about a year later by a series of Penguin updates that went from about 2013 to 2016. The video is small, I know, but I just loved that one of the penguin sliding down the snow on its belly. The Penguin update was followed by the Hummingbird update. And those are just a few of the updates, the most important for our focus being the addition of the AI overview in 2024. Of course, it wasn't just web browsers like Google that were developing and revising algorithms to control which websites got ranked higher. Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms used their own algorithms to control which content got shown in more people's feeds. On Facebook, users went from initially getting to choose whose content they wanted to see to then having Facebook decide whether you could see everything you asked for. Later, they emphasized prioritizing content with images, and then moved on to prioritizing content with videos or animated GIFs that auto-played. They decided people didn't like autoplay videos, so that option was turned off. Finally, Facebook definitely didn't like us sharing videos from YouTube because they wanted people to stay on Facebook. And we know, of course, that those changes from Google and Facebook and others were not just to provide a better content experience for the users. It was also opportunities for them to sell ads for content creators who wanted to boost their content to be seen by more people. But getting back to my earlier question, what attracts and keeps human attention? One of the most important factors is emotion. Dale Carnegie claimed that people are not creatures of logic, but of emotion. That theory has been supported by modern neuroscience and by behavioral economics, mainly reported in the writings of Daniel Kahneman, who described how emotion drives action while logic provides post-decision justification. Harvard Business School professor Gerald Zaltman noted that 95% of purchase decisions are made unconsciously, which is often driven by emotional limbic system responses. In my book, Get Your Message into Their Brains, I recommended a 4-pillar system that I called RSVP. And even though so much has changed since that book was published nearly 10 years ago, many of the ideas are still helpful. So here's just a very quick summary. The R is for refining your message to be focused, clear, and concise. That is clearly applicable to both humans and AI. The S is for storytelling, and V for visuals. Those are both still very helpful to make content more engaging for humans, but neither is really not really of interest or usefulness to AI. And the final pillar, P, is for persuasion, which is still important for your human audience if you want to make your call to action appealing without being too salesy. But since the AI is not likely to be one of your prospects, I don't think it's really going to do much to produce search results, whether you have persuasive language or not in your content. So what happens when the initial audience for search results is no longer human beings, but it's now artificial intelligence? Going back to the idea of people making decisions subconsciously and emotionally, think for a minute about the character of Data, the quite advanced android in the Star Trek TV series. The more modern versions, not the old 1960s version. You might recall that Data always wanted to know what it would be like to feel human emotions. My understanding is that the training of AIs, they can be taught to express emotional language or to create images, videos, or stories that will engage human emotions, but at least at this time, artificial intelligence doesn't experience human-like emotions. I, for one, am not going to try to predict when or if that might change. This is probably a good time to say just a few quick thoughts about GEO as different from AEO. Generative AI functionality certainly has the ability to create images, videos, stories, music, many of the types of content that stir the human emotions. But I would suggest that before you focus your efforts on GEO rather than AEO, look carefully at how, where, and why you would want to build up your brand to be recognized as an expert by generative AI engines. What extra advantage could GEO offer, and what extra costs would it require, especially if so few people are likely to click on links anyway? As I shared in one of my earlier videos and in my mini course, about 65% of search queries now end without the user clicking on any links. The traits described in the next series of slide references mostly AEO, but it helps to understand the reason that AIs need help with interpreting website content. And that's where schema markup is so important. If you missed the video where I discussed that, it's called How to Prepare for AEO. I'll put the link to it in the description below this video. So starting with SEO, It's, of course, optimized for search engine rankings, which have always been known as SERPs, search engine results pages. And the focus is on keywords, backlinks, and health of the site. And it also drives traffic from clicks on what's called organic listings, meaning a website listing that doesn't have ads. And for AEO, it is optimized for visibility in AI responses. It focuses on credibility, citations, and semantic relevance. And it drives brand mentions and authority within conversational outputs. And that's partly because AEO really encourages that we start using speakable schema. And the users appreciate that too. They don't have to keyboard everything. They can just speak and have an exchange of discussion with whatever AI device they're using. And of course, between these two, there is some overlap as well. So we'll just close with looking at that. Content quality and relevance are still critical, both in SEO and in AEO. Structured data and optimization improves visibility for both approaches. And remember, that's where that schema comes in, helping to structure the data. And the goal is quite similar for both, to increase brand authority and discoverability. Thank you so much for your interest in and your attention to this video. If you have any comments or questions about the material I covered today, I would love to hear from you, and I will respond. Before you go, be sure to check out the information below in the description about my mini course, How AI is Changing the Game for Online Visibility and Traffic. Thank you again, and I will talk to you again soon.